let me hear say well. I say boom boom boom, no everybody say well. I say boom boom boom, no let me hear say well. I say boom boom boom, no everybody say well. Well, boom boom boom, no let me hear say well. I say boom boom boom, no everybody say well.
Howard the motherfucking Duck. Proof that George Lucas has always been a shitty director and always had a severe lack of imagination. Hell, he may have created Star Wars, but he also created Star Wars. And Willow. Huh, how about that? He also created Howard the Duck. When I was trying to come up with a name for this movie, I had one serious problem, which was I couldn't think of a name. But it occurred to me after a bit of research that I discovered that George Lucas had made this movie simply just to get out of a contractual obligation to make another movie. I named my RoboCop movie RoboCop Lime simply because I like fucking with people. But this movie, Howard the Duck Lemon, is actually named because the movie is a lemon. The term lemon is originally used in the context of a car that was a total piece of shit. Did you get a good used car? No, I got a lemon. Which is why every state in America has what are dubbed lemon laws. Lemon laws prevent people from selling you a shit car. Sadly, there's no movie lemon law because Howard the Duck is a film lemon from beginning to end. Lucas sold everyone a lemon. Howard the Duck originally was a comic book of the same name. He originally appeared in 1973. To put that in perspective, the Vietnam War was going on, Elvis Presley was alive, Richard Nixon was in office. Howard's a pretty old Marvel Comics character from the era when people didn't steal their comic books from online. The movie, however, came out in 1996. Madonna's Papa Don't Preach was on your local radio station. Movies weren't that bad that year either. Short Circuit, Legend, Highlander, Aliens, Little Shop of Horrors, A Room with a View, Platoon, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Pretty in Pink, Top Gun, and My Little Pony the movie. Ugh. Bronies are creepy. Ronald Reagan was in office, and it was only a half a decade until the Soviet Union collapsed under the weight of its own vodka. It was a pretty awesome era. Things were really looking good for the future. And all that's ruined by Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck turned a great year into the shittiest year in history. Luckily, this movie was replaced by Dragnet the next year as the worst thing ever made. So, how did Howard the Duck ruin all mankind and begin the apocalypse? Well, plug your nose and join with me as we dive into this pool of sewage. Howard the Duck has 7 major things wrong with it. Number 1, the actors minus Leah Thompson and Tim Robbins are totally and completely shitty. Excessively so at times. So much so that Leah Thompson and Tim Robbins actually had trouble getting work for years after this. Number 2, the concept is so stupid it's like it came from a comic book. Number 3, at no point do you care about any of the characters, including the main character Howard. Number 4, stop-motion stupid monster thing. Number 5, animatronic duck suit. Number 6, George Lucas. Number 7, duck puns. Ugh, duck puns. Ugh. It tries a little too hard to connect with the audience, which is amusing because its audience was in 1986, which makes the movie look extra outdated. Big hair and guitars and, oh, here we go, 1980s gang members dressed like punk rockers. This movie is kind of a gray area for me, too, because it was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I still have a little bit of a soft spot for it. And by soft spot, I mean there's a section of my skull that hasn't quite fused together, and there were a number of films I watched over and over as a kid, much to the dismay of my parents. Short Circuit 1 and 2, Harry and the Hendersons, Back to the Future, the original Star Wars trilogy, and when my parents weren't home, I knew where they hid their tape of The Joy of Flying. The reason I bring this up is because it proves a point. When you're a kid, the shit you might watch might leave a warm spot inside you, right next to your heart. However, as you age and get better, that warm spot inside you moves from your heart lower and lower until it's right next to your colon. And that's what Howard the Duck is to me, a warm, fuzzy feeling near my colon. But it didn't start that way. It started as a film with an animatronic duck and entertainment for a child, because in the beginning
there was Howard the Duck.
Oh, this is gonna hurt. We start off with some sexy, soft jazz as the camera pans over Howard's world and its two moons, which is the very first thing that annoys me. They seem to be roughly the same size and distance. What is preventing them from attracting to each other and destroying Howard's world? I mean, whatever. We get to see the city that Howard lives in, and by the standards of this movie, it's likely called Ducktroit. Hold the phone. Leah Thompson's in this? Lorraine from Back to the Future? Well, shit, this might be good then. This shows the movie's age. That thing on Howard's keychain is a Just Say No keychain, which were popular in the United States during the time when this movie came out. You see a lot of this type of stuff in 1980s movies. And 1 minute, 19 seconds into the movie, we get to see the first duck pun. We see his mail where we actually learn his name is Howard.Duck. In a world of ducks, he actually has that name. Breeders of the Lost Stork, which is an obvious reference to the George Lucas's only other victory, which were the Indiana Jones movies, well, until Kingdom of the Crystal Snore. He checks his ancient 1980s answering machine, and we see him as a hippie in a grove of what is obviously not marijuana. Kind of breaks off that Just Say No message from earlier. Then we finally get to see Howard. Now, we know that this movie is going to be high quality. In all honesty, the effects of this movie are actually done extremely well for its era. Howard's face can actually emulate any number of emotions, from brooding to angry to surprised and scared to angry to angry. He's an angry fucking duck. This is kind of amusing.
$79.95? Forget it! $49.99?
This is a parody of a now defunct business chain of electronic stores. He followed much of the same formula, just acting like an ass clown. They were called Crazy Eddies, and their prices were insane. And so there are duck tits, which, if Howard's species truly evolved from ducks, as they explain later in the movie, there's no way that ducks would have tits because they're not mammals. Suddenly the set starts shaking, and oh look, old Macintosh. Suddenly he shoots through the wall, and the next, and oh, more duck tits. So Howard gets slurped up by the glowing red space vagina.
In the beginning there was Howard the Duck.
Yep, this movie's gonna hurt. Wait, I did that joke already. He's pooped out on Earth as a giant feathered space turd. Howard is accosted by one of my greatest 80s irritation, punk rock gangbangers. They kidnap him and use him as currency to gain access to the Leah Thompson show. Burley, Leah Thompson's character, is the lead singer of a band, an all-girl band called Cherry Bomb, an obvious reference to the Runaways, an all-American rock band from the 1970s, who had a song called Cherry Bomb. The bouncer thinks Howard is a kid, so he does what all bouncers do when they find a small child, which is throw them as far as humanly possible. Then he's assaulted by a bunch of comical female bikers, and Burley is almost raped in an alley where she's rescued by Howard.
I've been doing too much toot!
In case you don't know drug references, toot is referencing cocaine. He's been doing too much cocaine. Howard hits the strings and spins and begins his attack on the 80s cliches. Burley is shocked by the fact that she's still in this movie. They discuss where Howard is and... Wait a minute. How is it that Howard's species took a radical shift from human evolution, but somehow still managed to develop perfect American English?
Cleveland? Uh-huh. That's a perfect weird name for this planet.
She does what anyone would do in this situation, which is take a weird duck alien home. So Leah Thompson apparently lives in an abandoned building by the looks of it. Her house begins to shake, which makes Howard have flashbacks, giving them an excuse to use more recycled filler garbage. Howard has a look on his face that is usually reserved for the Penn State shower rooms. They get to know each other, which continues to get creepier because Leah Thompson is obviously sexually attracted to Howard. She's basically a duck fucker. Howard falls asleep, so she does the sensible thing, which is go through his wallet. For some reason, they cut this scene short in the Europe versions, removing this and this. I have no idea why, because you still have uncensored access to duck tits. Ah, fucking Christ. Hey, amusing fact, this condom wouldn't have fit Howard because ducks have crazy corkscrew dicks that are the size of their bodies. Duck penis! Marshington, Hatch Day, Mallarcard, Blooming Ducks, Anatidae, which is the family of fowl that ducks belong to. Remember the stupid Marshington DC joke? Well, they forgot to change it on the money. Awesome attention to detail, Lucas. So they're off to see a very young Tim Robbins overact his heart out, and he asks him a bunch of stupid questions.
Burn a hole through this with some kind of eye laser?
Can I bite your nose off with my super bill?
Now, how does he even know what a nose is? He doesn't even have one. He mentions his bill in the same sentence with nose. That's weird. He explains Howard's evolution, and Howard says,
Theory. Every school doc knows this stuff.
perhaps he should tell Pat Robertson, decades-old movie flop disaster from the 1980s, still more advanced than the 700 Club. Howard decides to act like a dumb asshole. Howard the Duck is pretty awful, but one of the most irritating things about Howard the Duck is how poorly it sits in 80s cinema. I mean, every character is overdone in this era. Like, the feathered hair, the punk rock gangs, the dive bars, the crime, the filth, the hair, the music. It's so over the top that it starts to become absurd. It's almost amusing how poorly this movie is aged, but what the fuck ever. Howard the Duck might be a dick, but he has a point, and Burley seems oblivious.
Look, maybe you are trapped in a world you never made, but I got problems of my own. You know, my whole career is falling apart.
What kids should do when seeing Jeffrey Jones. So Howard gets a job and gets yelled at by Aunt Jemima. So they put Howard in a position where a blacklight is the most feared thing on the planet. Howard gets yelled at by the second creepiest dude in this movie other than Jeffrey Jones, and he gets mouthy with the guy and he throws him into a vat of liquid STDs. And Howard counters by pushing the guy into what appears to be an entire pool of liquid shit. He quits his job and wanders off to conveniently find himself at the bar where Burley is playing. So he sucks up his pride and goes to see her. He manages to pick out Burley's band manager out of a crowd of people simply because he's whistling. It seems he won't give Beverly and the band their money unless Burley gives up her vertical chuckle beard. So Howard does the most logical thing, which is starting a bar fight and nearly stabbing the guy in the face. Howard needs some serious therapy. Look at all this awesome 80s style here. And awkward sex looks. And awkward sex looks. So Tim Robbins feather rapes Howard, and Howard is pissed. But they go home where Howard rocks out with his cock out on this equipment that would have been way too expensive by Burley's 1980s starving musician budget. Burley shows everyone her sexy, full-cut 1980s panties, and oh my god. Leah Thompson bent over nearly naked. God damn, she's hot. Wonder what she looks like to... Anyway, time for more creepy bestiality akin to Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. And here we go. Jeffrey Jones finally comes into the scene. If you don't know who Jeffrey Jones is, he is the star of such things as Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Beetlejuice, Deadwood, and Megan's Law. You see, this guy here, Mr. DJ Jazzy Jeff, was arrested and convicted of hiring a 14-year-old boy to pose for sexy naked pictures. He was convicted of it and possession of child pornography, and he was convicted in 2002 and put on to pervert.co.nz, which also pretty much killed his acting career, his last real role being in 2007 in the movie Who's Your Caddy, as the character Cummings. Well, that's unfortunate. So join me as I devote most of the rest of this movie to child molester jokes. Hey, Jeffrey, what do you get when you put a baby in a blender? An erection. He plays Dr. Walter Jennings, DWJ, which also stands for Driving While Jerking It to JCPenney Fall Catalogs. Nice trench coat, must make it easy to masturbate on the bus. So they just vomit out some technobabble and explain to Howard how he got here. What the fuck, that shit is made of cardboard. So apparently something went to shit as they fired up the space laser! And the lab is burning up, and so they hired all these extras to run all over the place. The police show up and sexually assault Howard, and they escape by stealing a cop's gun, which is a felony, and then they escape. Luckily, the cops are the most unobservant people in the world. Jeffrey Jones is back to give another touching performance. He explains how he pulled down aliens from a malevolent realm of creatures, much like how he pulls children's pants down from their natural realm. They easily drive off without any police blockades.
What's wrong with me?
You're a pedophile? Don't worry, police. He's only 3 feet tall and around Jeffrey Jeffness. You know what? Actually, you should get your team ready to drag the riverbeds. Ooh, this doesn't make him look creepy at all. He's one of the...
I am now one of the dark overlords of the universe.
Howard shits himself over the fried eggs. However, I'm curious. Since Howard's world wouldn't eat eggs, how would they know what a fried egg looked like? I mean, it would be like he would have to have seen pictures of it or something on his duck internet, which is like a human being looking at pictures of dead babies. That's almost as creepy as the Jeff Prince of Molestaire here. But he says...
What do you think? I'm into cannibalism or something?
But the reality is an egg that is used for human consumption is infertilized, so a chicken has to be impregnated by a male, then push out an egg which would grow into a chick. So no, Howard, it's not cannibalism, it's more like eating the vagina of a duck lady during her menstrual cycle, which you might have known had your sexually stingy ass ever performed duckalingus. Oh Christ, I'm making duck puns. So next, Petasaurus Rex blows up the ketchup and mustard for no real reason, which doesn't splatter on any of them. Then Howard destroys the entire restaurant like a real duck bag, and Burley shouts,
He's my boyfriend!
That's disgusting.
Where's the SPCA when you need them?
how in the hell did he know what the SPCA was? I mean, when earlier he had no idea what the fuck a pizza was.
What's a pizza?
And, well, Blue Poo Pedo Magoose gets up off his ass and earns that check finally. Howard does the cheapest gag in comedy, which isn't funny because had it come close to his junk, it would have actually had to come closer to his leg because he's got a huge giant duck penis and he'd have to tuck it down the pant leg. Duck penis! Then Uncle Tickle finishes off the restaurant and they try to escape, but much like his playroom basement, the doors are very secure. They try to move all the stuff away from the door rather than jump out the window that was completely destroyed earlier, which could easily fit them running side by side, but whatever, fucking duck penis. And for no real reason, he kidnaps the girl because, God forbid a woman be able to defend herself in a 1980s movie. This movie's so stupid, but let's go over this dumb movie so far. So the screenwriter Willard Huck wanted to make a buck, so he got George Lucas to give a fuck, and knowing how much George Lucas movies suck, Willard Huck got him to produce it like a schmuck, and truck runs over duck, and I wasted $25 on a fucked up duck. But I have bought worse DVDs. So Rapey McGrade School performs Duckalingus on the lighter here, and so Howard is trying to feed Phil and the nerd dipshit who easily escapes out the front window, and they find a hobby airplane by magic, and oh look, it's morning. I really need to find out how long it took them to do all of this because it looks like the whole movie takes place in 48 hours. I'll have to see how long they go without sleep later. Now comes a real moment of stupidness. Dr. Pokengrope smashes right through the fence in a high-speed tractor-trailer beast vehicle. I'll explain why this is stupid in just a sec. So, they take off in this stupid lawnmower contraption and Burley is somehow tied up. No, really, it's not like he even tied her. It's like it's wrapped around her arms. How can you not get out of that? Did they just spin rope around her hands? Fuck, the dark overlords of the universe are stupid as shit. And here's what I was talking about. So he's with a tour group after smashing through the fences. But not just any tour group, but one from the government. So this government safety group is touring the place, and he slips in, and no one blinks an eye. Tax money hard at work. Thanks, Obama. Now comes the greatest edit job in history as he walks up to one guy.
Toaster oven.
Then they cut to two different guys. However, you can still hear the laughter of the now vanished actor that was there a moment ago. Did they even watch this footage before they took scotch tape and just put it together. So he easily sneaks away from the group and jumps into the nuclear reactor the easiest way possible, by walking in the door, which for some reason isn't shooting out razor-sharp, high-pressure steam and radiation particles, killing everyone in the building and the local area. Didn't that Russian nuclear plant shit not wake everybody up? All the staff runs to fix the leak when, oh no, they discovered he stole all the megawatts. And then he escapes out the easily accessible hole he smashed into the wall, which kind of negates all the security that they had prior. Shit, all you really need to steal all the megawatts from a fusion reactor is just bring a sledgehammer, smash a hole in the wall from the outside of the building, and then you're there. Hey, check this out. So they throw a sign on the police car windshield, and being the 1980s, can we expect them to oh, nope, they're just gonna plow ahead at full speed blindly until, yeah, there it is. They knock down everyone out of a duck hunt. Later, fuckers. You know, if this was the folks from Duck Dynasty, they'd be eating a big-ass duck for dinner. Dr. Wily disintegrates the cop, and then they blow a bunch of buckshot right into the windshield, which I guess makes him bulletproof, since his face doesn't look like a senior citizen prostitute's lady bits. He explodes the cars to death, and Howard says one of the things that Jeffrey Jones doesn't like to hear.
This is no time for water sports!
Although I shouldn't be too mean to him, as he does provide Leah Thompson's vagina. They go through a train, a choo-choo kind, not the kind of train that Jeffrey Jones ran on the cast of Clarissa Explains It All. Luckily, the building that he takes her to has a place for weapons research. A neutron disintegrator behind a padlock, no problem.
Welcome to Dynatechnics. Authorized personnel only.
This computer actually has a really nice voice, but it should sound more like Stephen Hawking because it's so long ago into the 1980s. Text-to-speech was not very advanced back then, but fuck, I still can't find a GPS that doesn't sound like a bossy British lady. Dr. Wily sets up the laser with an incredible scientific bullseye display, and boy, this nerd who they found out earlier was nothing more than a lab assistant sure knows a lot about military-grade weapons prototypes, doesn't he?
The neutron disintegrator was developed for the Army until cost overruns became really embarrassing.
Well, get down to the marine life exhibit with a mop. Some kid up chucked all over the fern fossils.
Hey, the writing in this movie's so bad, let's have a what does this do moment.
What's this do?
Now find out the exit!
Dr. Pedobearstein uses his Sith powers, which are easily deflected by a small piece of metal. Howard drives his duckmobile straight at him. Caution, pedophile from space.
Prepare to eat beak!
If he were to eat beak, that would mean that Howard's mouth was on his, so I think he wants to make out with Megan's Law here, which I'm sure gives him a boner for the kid in the duck suit. They get him with the purple space bazooka, and then Jeffrey Jones tells them what he told his probation officer after he found God.
The evil's not inside me anymore. The explosion must have released it, and it's loose.
So, time for some good, classic, retro, stop-motion, oh my fucking god, what in the hell is that thing? It's so stupid. It looks like the Geico Gecko fucked the Predator and this was the outcome. It's like a big, dumb, stupid rubber scorpion monkey lobster creature. It's just so fucking dumb. Howard cuts it off and then it spits out some Slimer ecto-cooler and he zaps him and he has to make a horrible decision.
The machine, Howard! You gotta destroy it! Blast it! Get him!
No, Howard, don't.
Huh?
We'll never get home.
She's right, Howard. If you can't get home, you'll be stuck on Earth and likely have to date 1980s Leah Thompson. Yeah, I thought so. He destroys the machine, evil space lobsters go back, and the lab explodes, and he plays dead, and creepy sex looks. And then they play the Howard-Duck song. And I'm gonna make you sit through this whole ending. You deserve it because you made me watch this movie so many times.
Not bad for a duck from outer space.
You were great, Ducky.
Times. And creepy sex looks.
Quack. 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 Quack.